Welcome. Say It Sister is a podcast hosted by Karen and Lucy, focused on honest conversations about women's lives, midlife, healing, and reclaiming our voices and power. We gather every week to share our thoughts and wisdom. And remember, if you love what you're hearing, please like, share, comment, and help us reach more women, because that is how sisterhood works. Women supporting other women.
Yes, we want more women to come and join the conversation so we can listen, learn, and create a shift and change together. And this week's topic of conversation has been prompted by an awareness Karen has been noticing. Now, she's coming straight from watching Take That, so I want to hear all about that. And what is it that prompted this topic, and introduce it for us?
Well, first and foremost, Take That. How amazing was that? Just really having that time. I first watched them when I was 18 in Manchester, and I was at my first year at university. And I remember going to see them and, just having such an amazing time. And then to go back at 50 and see them, and like there's three of them left, but my God, they were having the best time on that stage. And you could see the emotion. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? They've had this longevity career with some bits and bobs in the middle, and then the emotion in their eyes, that was the most moving part for me. And then watching thousands and thousands of women, come together, singing, hugging, it was all about celebration, and it was electrifying. And I think there was no trouble, there was no issues there. It was just wonderful. I've been to other gigs before, and it was mainly women, and you can just feel the energy is different. And I just thought it would be really good for us to come back together and to talk about, honest conversations and unmasking, because let's face it, most of us have been conditioned to wear a mask, to play the game, to, almost like box ourselves. It's like walking around with a straitjacket on, and we're all quite rigid and stiff because we are like wondering how people are perceiving us, and are we saying the right thing? Are we doing the right thing? Are we being too much, or are we not being enough? Do we need to push ourselves forward, or do we need to back off? And it's this constant questioning and this constant wondering how other people perceive us that makes us wear the masks. And whilst sometimes it's healthy to wear a mask because we need to protect ourselves, not as a everyday thing. So what about you, Lucy? Where do you go when you think about unmasking?
So I had a conversation just yesterday with a 36-year-old mum of a 9-year-old girl who said she's starting to feel really confident in herself, and that she felt happy, and also that she started to feel confident in her skin. And it reminded me of when I was 36, because that was when I actually decided to go out on my own, retrain as a coach, start my own business. I thought, there is a confidence that comes around that time, your mid to late 30s. But then I also had this feeling of you have no idea what's coming, because yes, I felt like I had this inner confidence, but I was also still wearing, well, yes, I probably was wearing some masks. But what was to come next over the next 10 years was quite brutal, because the perimenopause hit. And then I started questioning, well, actually, who am I? Am I on the right path? Why am I wearing these clothes? Am I trying to fit in? Why am I saying yes to things when I want to say no to? And on the other side of that, which I'm just starting to come into, I'm also feeling more connected to that inner child version of me before all of the social conditioning, and her pure essence, than any time in my life. But I had to go through this complete questioning. So it is a really unique 10 years of our lives, isn't it? Where we basically have to go deep and dark and unravel and question everything. So that's where I go with it, because I now see really clearly all of the masks that I had to wear
Yeah.
for whatever reason. But I also now feel how uncomfortable it is when I actually put a mask on.
Yeah.
And I understand why I do it, but then I'm like, ugh, that felt horrible. I can't wait to get home or be with my people so I can just be me again. That's where I go with this.
Yeah, and we all know that there is a role that we are taught to play. We put the different hats on and the masks as we figure out who we are and how we exist in society. Like, where do we fit in? Where do we belong? And sometimes if we don't feel like we belong, then that's when we have to wear the mask. And we know there's like, when we go to work, there might be a certain part of us that we show. But when we go home, we have another side that we adopt. And we're constantly sort of moving in between from one to the next. And I feel like there comes a point in time in midlife when you start to realise that the armour that we're wearing, the mask that we're wearing, it's not ours, it's actually been given to us. And we've learned how to survive with these masks on. And we're always trying to understand context. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm always like, I'm having my experience, I'm living my life. I've got lots of, I've got a back catalogue, shall we say, of experiences, tools, stories, and then I have to adapt myself to think, well, I'm gonna take that. This is a work capacity for me. I'm there with Canis Meno as an ambassador, so I'm in a work context, but in a very social setting, and so there's a part of me that's like, okay, so I'm now work Karen, I'm professional Karen, so there's a certain performance that comes with that. Um, and then once I sort of feel safer, it's like, okay, I'll show a little bit more of me now because I'm here and it's a concert and everybody's sort of, there's always that uncomfortableness at the beginning where everybody's very, very sort of professional. And then as the night goes on, things tend to slip a little bit and you start to see people coming more out and more forward because they feel safe. But without that, like without the safety, we stay in the armor, we stay in the mask, and there's many reasons for that. So that's what I wanted to say, and it was interesting for me to go to take that and sort of see that sort of side of me in a community of women, some that I knew, some I didn't know at all. I met a load of new people, and everybody sort of trying to feel their way through that, as to what they would show and say and allow. So it was interesting.
Yeah, it's it is fascinating because I think me of old would have probably used alcohol to help me unmask or be less socially awkward. Whereas now I don't really drink at all. Or if I do, it's maybe one glass, maybe two at a push over a whole night. So now it's just all me that I have to deal with. But I usually
Yeah.
find now I'm the one who probably starts taking the mask down first to then give other women permission to as well. So I might just slip in a little swear word from time to time, or I might be the first one to actually start dancing just to encourage. I don't go full mad, I just like let that mask drop a little bit. And
Yeah.
then what usually happens is because I've taken the lead, other women are like, oh, it's okay to do that. And then by, again, like you say, by a certain point in the evening, everyone is just relaxing and being themselves and laughing and singing. And it's such a beautiful experience because actually there's nowhere safer really than predominantly women's spaces.
Yeah.
Because there would have been loads of blokes there too. But when the majority, actually, when it's female coded,
Yeah.
so you just know the rules around here. It's a girls' night out. Everything shifts, and
Yeah.
I find that very easy to be around. Whereas teenage me would not have felt comfortable with that because there was a whole other mask I was wearing then.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I was actually having conversations with women there saying, because you could see who were the extroverts and who were the introverts. I sit in the middle, but I do need to feel like if I'm out and I'm very, very extrovert, that's normally a mask
Yeah,
because I'm much more sort of in the middle somewhere and I can do both. I can pull in and I can come out and but I'm always sort of like, this is where the second guessing can happen. But I noticed there was quite a few of the women were more on the introverted and they were much more sort of like holding back. And I had conversations with them, and they were saying, oh, this isn't really my natural thing. I'm not normally surrounded by so many people who are so extrovert. And it's just interesting because I feel like we're all probably doing that dance somewhere along the line as to where we fit, and what we need to overcome within ourselves to be part of the journey, really. Because some people might need to pull in a bit more and others need to come back out. Like I certainly have to work at being out these days. It's not natural for me to do that. So it does take me a bit of time to warm up and then I'm good. I was thinking about being, how as girls we're taught to please with is this idea of perfectionism or waiting for the perfect time, which I see a lot, and then the harmonizing, which we've talked about. But I think the words that I heard the most as a child was good. I heard that word a
Good
lot, and
girl.
yeah, the good girl. And if I wasn't called Karen, I could have been called good girl as a
Yeah.
little girl because I really took it on. And then, of course, there's the alternative flip. You know, you flick the switch as you get older and you go, well, actually, I don't want to be good anymore. I'm going to be the bad girl. And then that's still a mask. And then you go into
But there
that.
was no middle ground, was there? You're either the rebellion bad girl or you were the good girl, because actually being normal, just being yourself, was not an option.
Exactly. And it's that idea of like, how would it be to just be in the moment and to know that you have all these different parts of you and actually you can pull on what's needed in the moment for yourself and you can trust that there might be times when you're like, actually, no, I'm going to toe the line on this because this is what I want to do and I'm going to follow that. Or actually, no, I don't agree with that. I'm going to be a rebel in this and I'm going to challenge it and I'm going to say no, and that feels like the right thing to do. And perhaps there's the quiet space in the middle that's much more like, actually, I don't need to get involved in this. I'm just going to sort of withdraw.
And
Um,
this weekend, I had an experience of that because I am the extrovert, but I also know that when my social battery is gone, it's gone. And I was round at a friend's. The idea was to put the screen on outside, watch the football, and I went round there about. It was probably about 6 o'clock. The hot tub was there, so got in there, and I said, "Just to let you know, I have no intention of watching the football. I haven't watched a single match yet." But I'm fully present. And so did that, and I was going to have a few drinks. And actually, after two glasses, I got to that stage. And I'm like, I don't want to drink anymore.
yeah.
So I didn't, and I was almost bucking the trend of everybody else. And they were like, "Oh, you'll stay later, won't you?" And I'm like, "No, it's 10 o'clock. I'm leaving now." And um, yeah, even like 5 years ago, I think I'd have carried on the mask and said, "No, keep
Yeah.
going, keep drinking through it, whatever." Whereas now I'm just like, no, I can't be anything but real. I've been with you for 4 hours. We've had an amazing time, but my social battery is drained. I'm drained. And for me, that's really liberating. But now, bit by bit, everybody around me is just getting it. They
Yeah.
know that actually, when Lucy says no, she means no. Or if she says she's going at 10, she honours her word. And I think that's the most powerful thing that I've learned about getting older. I used to think the good girl was pleasing everybody. And so I'd spend so much time trying to make sure everybody around me was happy or happy with me in the way I acted. Now I'm older, I'm like, actually, when I advocate for myself, nobody's really offended.
But isn't
Nobody
that
really cares that much.
once you've got through the uncomfortable parts, though, that's the gift of midlife. I do believe that
Mm.
solidly because there are times when we've got to go a little bit beyond that point, where it's like, oh, this is really uncomfortable, um, but I'm going to go there because there's something that I'm going for, and so there's a stretch point. And then there are other times when it's just like it's just an absolute no, and I'm not going to stretch at all. I'm just going to pull in and just be true to myself. And I think midlife for me has definitely made the decision making easier because I just think I haven't got the ability to, like I'm tired. Same as you, when I'm tired, I'm tired. When I'm done, I'm done. I have quite a long shelf life, so I can go for a while, but it always comes back to the same point of going, actually, this is a definite no. And I know that, and I know that feeling in my body, and I've learned to trust it. And I'm grateful for that because I think that, when we start to get low on estrogen, even though we can, take the supplements, get the HRT, it isn't the same. Like, it's just not the same. We're not like we were when we were younger, where we had like multiple energies and, we could go and we could even stay up all night and still, all of that sort of side of us has gone. And there is always a hangover for me, even if I'm not drinking. Like I'm still feeling the effort. Friday was late. I didn't get in until like 1 in the morning because I had to get home, and I can feel the stress in my voice today. It's going to take me a few more days to get back into me, and I'm aware of that, and I've got no desire to want to push through too much, for the next couple of
Whereas
days.
us in our 20s and 30s, we would have pushed through.
Yeah,
We
of
would have
course.
just carried on all night and then we'd have shown up performing. Because even like if you were out heavily partying the night before, well, you didn't want to be seen as weak and saying I've got a hangover or I'm tired. You just like get a can of Pro Plus, and maybe a McDonald's hash brown, and you just keep powering through, because it was almost like the mask of superwoman, party girl, keep pushing, ambitious, and but actually inside you were absolutely dying. But
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
dared to admit it, and I'm so glad I've outgrown that part of my life.
Yeah, and it's the impact of what's going on in our body, our brain, and our journeys that does change us in a way. Like we're still the same in our core, but we are different and we are evolving and we're growing. And like I feel like there's just this sort of like marker that gets put down where you go, because of all of that, I'm going to give myself permission to, say no to that, get home, leave at 10 o'clock, because I know that's really, really what I need. And actually, it's not even a basic need, it's more of a like longing. Like we go past the needs point, because I think it starts as I've got a need, and then that need sort of goes, actually, it's deeper than that. I've actually got a deep, deep longing to get home, get in my bed, snuggle down and feel like I can just let go of the day. And for me, that longing of getting into bed is actually really
Oh,
strong.
it's my favourite place.
And when I was in London, I took my mum down to London with me, and it took me ages to get out of the concert venue and to get back. That's why I was so late going home. Um, Back to the hotel, and my mum, and all I could think about was seeing my mum when I got back. And I'm 50, and I just thought, oh my God, I really want my mum in this moment. And there she's going to be there at the hotel. And it was so lovely because I got to spend the next day with her, and I just thought, this is actually what I'm really longing for.
Yeah. And
Weirdly enough.
it's funny because I think during your 20s and 30s, have FOMO, the fear of missing out. And then you get to our age and it's actually JOMO, the joy of missing out. And it's like, yes, that's been cancelled, or yes, I get to go home early. And it's like, we've got our measure, we've got what we needed from that situation. And then we leave. And it is, to the things that we really appreciate. And I think that's something that needs celebrating. But I do want to come on to the topic of what goes on in your 40s, because I remember hearing life begins at 40, but actually it was complete opposite. It's almost like life stood still in my 40s. But I know for you that midlife renewal, it was brutal.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I just wanted to hear your version of that that decade, but why it was necessary for you to come through and be able to appreciate the joy of everything now.
Well, I think because I delayed everything, you know what I mean? Like I was out with a huge career and living life to the full and traveling. And so I had responsibilities, but I didn't have a family. And so I was a bit like a female Peter Pan in a way. Like I wanted all those things, but I just couldn't quite. And like it's interesting because I got this card today, and it's you have to let go of the old to get the new. And I knew that. So then in my sort of like as I got to 40, I'd already begun the process of letting go. So there'd been the build up to that, and then I met my husband. Um, and then my whole life just changed. And obviously when I became pregnant again in I was 42, baby at 43, everything going on with perimenopause, you know, PTSD due to so many things that happened, and loss of friendships. I was like, oh my God, like this is how am I actually, as I've said to you many times, I don't think I'm going to ever get out of this. Like I felt like I was so trapped in the pit of despair in a way, even though there was joy and love there, because there was loads of that. But the actual anxiety level, the PTSD was so strong, and the fear that I was in, and then the grief that I was feeling as well. And I think we don't talk about grief enough. And I think this is a separate podcast where the grieving that happens when we get to sort of key life stages where we've moved like through the gate into the next phase, but perhaps we haven't dealt with some things from before as well. And then life starts to happen because it's giving us the lessons to wake us up. I do believe that. And it's for our highest interest. So we've got to do the work. And then it's almost like, holy shit, like, and now who am I? Because I'm in this deep grief. And there's anxiety here as well. So it's like I'm in the deep grief and sadness, and I'm also highly anxious. Like what the hell is happening? And our hormones, are doing their thing as well. So for me, I was just like, and I had a baby. I was like, oh my God, please tell me that this isn't now going to be it forever. And luckily for me, I knew enough brilliant people who would say to me, not on my watch, not on my watch. I believe in you. You're going to come through this and it'll be even better than before. But when you're in it, and perimenopause is 7 to 10 years, it's like if you've just gone into perimenopause and you're starting to wobble, and you think 7 to 10 years, like I understand why women will do anything to get out of that, and why they're quitting jobs and, quitting relationships, because you're like, well, if I deal with that thing, at least that's one less thing that I have to deal with. And so it makes total sense why we get into that. Let's get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, because we just can't handle with the immediates of what's going on.
Yeah, so I'd say there's a couple of things that are going on there because for some it is a case of a life stage hormonal reaction where I want to blow up my life because I can't cope with any of this. But for a lot of women, I think there's also a case of they go into the cocoon, they go into these darker places where nothing's giving you joy. You don't know, you don't recognize yourself. You see the wrinkles, you see the meno belly appearing. You
Yeah,
start getting aches and pains. You start having different relationships with different people. You start looking at the world and just thinking, hang on, I'm not the crazy one, everybody else is, and you start getting all these moments of clarity. And that's when you think, I don't want to do this job anymore. Or
yeah,
unless this relationship changes in a meaningful way, I don't think I can invest any more time.
yeah,
So I think it's, yeah, there are some major life changes, but I think this is part of that life begins at 40, or I'm going to say 50 now, because it is the stage where we start questioning with the same curiosity that we had when we were maybe 4 or 5 years old about, well, what can I be when I grow up, and what kind of relationship do I want, and who are my friends, and I can dance and I can sing and I can paint and I can also do all these amazing things. I think that comes into its own. But because we have so many responsibilities and we've been wearing all these different masks for so long,
yeah.
it's really hard because you have to question, who am I really?
Yeah, and it's
Is
the
that a
loss.
belief I'm holding, or am I ready to let go and grieve
Yeah,
that? I think that's an important word.
it is, and it's the loss of identity, and we see it where women have like left big jobs as well because they're just like, I can't keep all this rolling, and then there's this loss of identity of like, well, if I'm not, and I did go through a level of this, but actually I was just ready, so it wasn't that part of leaving my old career behind was fine. Like I just walked out the door and I just knew I was done, and then I was opening up to something different. So that was an easy transition, but some women get really, really stuck in that phase, and they're like, well, if I'm not busy all the time with my work, then who am I? Then I'm not of any purpose, and I'm not, it's probably the old school masculine, approach for men. Like when they retire, that's when they tend to sort of get really ill and some of them die. um,
Yeah, or the midlife crisis where they all go and buy a Porsche or a motorbike.
and get tattoos.
It's yeah, exactly. It's that kind of mindset. It's like something's got to give. But what I found with both of you and I and everybody else, our peer age group, when they reach either towards the end of perimenopause or they, go over to the other side in their 50s, where they yeah, reach menopause, there's this liberation that
Yeah,
comes because they've craved the deeper relationships, that intimacy with themselves as well as other people, honest relationships. They don't want any of this, surface level connection, and so they demand more, they expect more, they ask for more, and that makes them powerful beyond measure because they know who they are, they're unapologetically themselves, and they choose themselves first, and often for the first time ever. And
yeah.
it's just beautiful.
To me, it feels like a leveling out, and I don't really like the idea of that because I do like the like to be passionate and big and bold. Like leveling out feels very much like flatline, but it doesn't. It's not how it feels inside my body. Inside my body, it feels stable and it feels grounded,
I've never
and
felt more powerful.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it leveling out's probably not the word, but it's that idea of just like it is definitely powerful, but it's like powerful from a deeper place, and
Yes.
there's a lot of it feels like there's a lot of measuring going on the inside, but I'm not having, excuse my throat, I'm not having to work so hard at that. And I think if I look back to my past, I think I've always had to work really hard to be level and to be balanced, even though I'm naturally quite a balancer, because of life and because of the conditioning and because of the way we live our lives. So now I'm like, it's almost like I'm unconscious with it, and I mean that in a positive way. Like I've got a level of competency that is unconscious because it feels natural, as opposed to working hard to be competent, but being so incredibly conscious of it and aware of it and having to work so hard at it all the time, all the time, all the time. Like, am I regulated? Now it's much more like, actually, no, I know when I'm unregulated fast too, so I can take care of myself. Whereas before it was just a sea of like, oh, well, I don't even think I was that connected to my body to know necessarily. I just was working on such a high level of stress all the time that it was hard to recognize what was excitement and what was genuine stress.
Yeah. Or
Now I've,
adrenaline or dopamine, just, chasing after
yeah,
that, rather than just actually, this just feels good.
yeah.
This is what good contentment feels like.
And then now I need to rest because there's been a lot
Yes.
of output, and that's good too because that's when I then come back stronger. And I knew that in my 40s, but still was beating myself up about it. I was still on my case and
Mm.
being like the permission bit and the holding ourselves in compassion and being like, give yourself some compassion because this is bloody hard. The bit that we bring into our work with women, it's like, like hold yourself in compassion like, and when women tell us their stories and they tell us like how they're blaming themselves for things, and when we actually hear it in full, you're like, I don't hear any, this is not your fault actually. Can we hold you in compassion with that? Because this is something that is outside of your control on so many levels. And I think that's really, really important. And as coaches, that's what we do. And then we have to also hold ourselves in that space as well. And that is where I've got to when I've got to this sort of like, this new chapter. I'm like, yeah, I actually am really kind to myself. Not every day, but most days. I'd say, you know, yeah, I'd say most days I'm kind to myself, and then I have some blips in the middle. What about you?
Because you're human. You're
Yeah,
just human.
exactly.
Well, I think there's something about, well, the name of our company, Wise Women Lead. I think there's something about this wisdom that you get as you start emerging through this decade and you start coming out the other side, because there is this inner wisdom that comes with it of like, again, I know who I am. I know the stories that I've told myself, or how all of the things in my life, the patterns, what they all mean, or at least I'm starting to understand.
Yeah,
Um, and it's having that discernment to say, do you know what? Right now, I do need a mask.
yeah,
Because I am going to a business meeting, so I need to wear something that looks like that, and I need to make sure I've got makeup on. Other times it might be, I'm going to a more intimate venue, so I know that I need to put the mask on and behave in a certain way and filter myself. And I think that discernment is really powerful because you're consciously doing it, whereas I think in your 20s and 30s, you're unconsciously putting masks on. You don't even
yeah,
then recognize who you are. So for a start, unmasking is not being like fully present and open and completely exposing who you are all the time to people, just as masking isn't a negative thing that you should be ashamed of. It's actually about, yeah, being conscious about, right, now I need to take my mask off and be a bit more vulnerable in myself. Now I need to put it on just as a layer of protection. And it's that discernment of knowing when and with who.
absolutely. And this is something that I did learn in my 40s, and also as I started to look at the mask, I was like, oh gosh, there's many different masks. And I realized that there's the mask that I wear when I want people to see me in a certain way, like see me as professional, see me as um, someone who knows what she's doing, see me as grounded. So that is something that I wear. Now, underneath that, there is another mask that's like, don't see me as stressed. Don't see me as PTSD. Don't
Yeah.
see me in that way. This is just one example. But then underneath that is that really core higher self that's very much like, you know how to evolve through this.
Yeah.
You've got the wisdom. That's why we talk about wisdom all the time because it's so much deeper than any mask. And knowing, know who you are, know that you're capable, know that you'll know what to do, and know that you're brilliant in challenging scenarios. So therefore, you can handle whatever comes. Like
And
that's
that's where I
core.
think that power comes from.
Yeah.
Like when you know this, you have this wisdom, you have that knowledge within yourself. So I think that's where the power comes from, because like I can do this and I've done things like this before and I can do them well
Yeah.
and I will survive, and actually I'll learn something along the way. And it kind of gets to the last element that we wanted to share today, which is a little bit about advice for the younger women, because I don't know about you, but when I was in my 20s and 30s, the thought of being in my 40s seemed like an alien concept. Nobody talked about the perimenopause. I don't think I even knew there was a name for that. I just heard about the menopause. And that was what old people did and had hot flushes. I never knew that there was this amazing experience that was going to come and challenge me. I just heard all the negative things about it because let's face it, there's some tough stuff. So I just thought, you know what, let's imagine we were talking to a 20-year-old who is going to go and put lots of masks on, because I think that's a natural part of
Yeah.
evolving, and the person in her 30s who hits that crisis and starts questioning things, and even the person in her early 40s who might start just be going into this and thinking, what's going on with me? What advice would you give them?
Oh God, there's so much I want to say. I don't know why I keep thinking about AI, so I've gone I've gone into an AI world because these are the people, the young women coming through have grown up with their phones and they're going to be using AI and wondering, what that's all about. There is a call for vulnerability and humanity to sort of step forward and unmask and be real. And I feel like we are being told a lot, like, we want to hear your stories and we want to like share your growth stories with us. And there's, as coaches, that's the work we do. But also when we do public speaking and things, we're sort of invited onto that, and they want to hear like why we're talking about this. They don't just want to know about the subject; they want to know why we're talking about the subject and what our life experiences of it. So we have to go into these spaces, and that can feel really, really vulnerable. So, but we have to always check in with ourselves, I think. And I think what I'm saying is like, check in with yourself. Does it feel like the right thing for you to do? And if it doesn't feel like the right thing to do, then don't do it. And share what you're ready to share when you're ready to share it, and don't feel pressurized to share too much. And just, it's a journey, so there's an openness that happens over time. Don't pressurize yourself too much is what I would say. And the mask can be so helpful, because sometimes we need to have the mask on so that we can gather ourselves underneath, to then come back out. What about you?
It's like even the mask of putting your big girl pants on. Like that's a traditional one that we often hear. But yes, that is a mask. Sometimes you need to almost
Yeah.
visualize yourself putting on that armor so that you can do the big important things or try new things. Sometimes you need to imagine wrapping yourself in a nice little comfy cardi or something like that because you want to give yourself some tenderness in that moment. That is a mask equally. And so I think the advice that I would give to somebody in their 20s and 30s is uh, know that masking or putting on that little bit of armor for whatever you need, actually, it's completely normal, because the whole point of that period of your life is trying to figure out what fits, what doesn't fit, how do I try these new experiences? Is it for me? Is it not? So there's lots of questions, and you're trying to figure stuff out. But don't allow that mask to become your identity. The important advice I want to give you is just remember who you always were at 6, 7, 8, 9. The things that gave you joy, the things that made you giggle, the pastimes you used to do that would get you in that flow state. That's the real essence. And it's about how you try and bring that version of yourself in whilst navigating the world. And then when you go into your 40s, just know that yes, there's going to be times where it's going to be rough, but each one is there to peel back a layer of the onion so you can emerge renewed with a fresh skin and fresh mindset and a fresh heart. Um, it literally is liberation on the other side. So, closing. I don't want to close this one because there's so much more to say, but it's been a beautiful conversation with you, Karen, and they always are, but I've really enjoyed this one. Um, and so I just want to say, unmasking in midlife, it's inevitable, it's necessary, and it's a shift to like being present in your life and in yourself. It's about falling in love with yourself all over again, forgiving yourself, grieving parts of you that are no longer here, and shedding anything that you've learned that is no longer useful, and choosing what is true, and leading from a much more honest place so that you can be authentic, not totally exposed, but using it as a conscious choice. So until next time, keep saying it, sister.
Lovely. That was nice.